Nnamdi Emeh is a Nigerian National Youth Service Corps member who served with the police unit known as RS. I think it's Rapid Response Squad. It used to be known as SAS being the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, but when this unit was fought to a standstill in 2020, they changed their names, but they didn't change their character. And Emeh was with them and found a lot of startling, issues around how they operated, how they kill people. And he also did say that when they kill people in their custody, they sell their organs to organ trafficking companies or persons. And he then went further to publish this online through what is known as Whistleblower, I think. But the police authorities who he was directly working with didn't take kindly to that. They had given him so much trust that he could get into their devices, help them with some of their own propaganda, as they claim, and also use that opportunity to just figure out what was going on. And that was how they turned on him. He escaped and ran away from the country and lived briefly in Benin Republic, and they tracked him down there and got him brought back to Nigeria. 2023, he was charged for a variety of offenses. That he was in possession of weapons, he was defaming certain police officers who were directly involved in this. But his actions or activities led the police units, the Nigeria Police Force headquarters, to arrest the officers he allegedly indicted and brought them to Abuja, and they were supposed to be detained, but they were never detained because they had protectors at the highest levels of the police hierarchy. So they eventually charged him. He was arrested, charged, and then granted bail. And the moment his bail was perfected, the police intervened again through an ex parte motion. And by 2024, they prevented his release by getting an ex parte motion granted by the same judge who has signed the release. It was bizarre. And then, since then, he's been in detention. But while he was in detention or in prison custody, not convicted in Oka, there were attempts on his life, so we've been monitoring that. And he also won a Whistleblower's Award. 2025 that you guys must have heard about. And for him to get that award, it means that those people have done their due diligence, discovered that he was being persecuted as a whistleblower. I have done my own research too. And by today, as a matter of fact, because I started to bring out more of the information yesterday, that the new Inspector General of Police must address this issue. We had gotten the report that was commissioned by the Nigeria Police Force headquarters here in Abuja that was never released. Where, regardless of how they tried to vilify him in their report, because he was the target to the report, they also went further to reveal that those officers he worked with and named actually killed 11 people in 2022 alone under very suspicious circumstances, and that they were engaging in all kinds of unethical, unsupervised, and very deadly activities as police officers. And they recommended they should be removed, transferred to headquarters, wide investigation, but that was the end of it. These officers, some of them have been promoted twice. The lead, I think, Agweze or something, is now an ACP. I think he's even been transferred back to the East so that they can have control over complete domination and repression of Emeh. So Emeh has been in detention since 2023, and he has not left detention, even though he was granted bail and his bail condition had been met. So the court now is asking that they should go and look for sureties, even though he had met the bail condition before. And these policemen in Anambra and Akunzu are very powerful, that if you stand surety for a person of interest, they're interested in, they'll come after you. So it's difficult to find people willing to stand surety, but that effort is being made. We're hoping that we'll get Emeh out as soon as possible. I think his case comes up in April. But we're talking to lawyers if they can abridge the hearing date. But the most importantly is to pressurize or to put pressure, not pressure actually, to ask the Nigeria Police Force, led by the new IGP, to do the right thing with discontinuing the trial. Get the officers involved arrested, properly investigated, and get to the root of this case, because the public is paying attention. And with Nigerians, there's this just special place for fighting against police impunity since 2020, after NSAS.
Yeah, so that brings us to further conversations about this, because when you look at the fact that he won an award, so it means that the international community is watching, right? And so the question then becomes, what becomes of people, who have been labeled as whistleblowers? If, for instance, like we talked off camera, if, for instance, what I said wasn't even true, what really is the case?
So when it comes to whistleblower policies across the world, it's to encourage people who might have information to step forward, mostly anonymously, to tell on whether their employers, friends, or officials of government about the wrongdoing. It could be perceived wrongdoing. You don't have to be aware of whether your activity, what you're speaking about is true or not. It is the duty of government to go and make sure that is done. And if you do not meet the threshold of a whistleblower, they discharge you. There's no crime. You're just trying. If they decide that you are trying to be mischievous, there might be other consequences, but there's nothing close to keeping somebody in prison for 4 years just for stepping forward. But in this case, as the police themselves admitted in their interim report, which I published on my on Facebook and Twitter today, this guy, his information was substantially true, powerful enough for the police to detect that the officers that he was blowing about had killed 11 people. I mean, he was able to publish so many of this information about the relationships between these officers and how they were interacting and how they were lying against people and claiming that they're IPOP so that they could arrest and kill them or take and extort money from them. All these things were established. Of course, they also claimed that in one of the phones that they gave him to work on, he took money and sent to his own account.
So that's where the whole cyber crime begins to come into play.
So, but you can't accuse him of cyber crime when you are the one who asked him to do cyber work for you. They're the ones who asked him to be engaging in cyber warfare so that they can get at people. He was working for them. So it wasn't an outsider. It was when he turned on them because his conscience told him what was going on is wrong, that he then became targeted. And to be sure that they didn't leave him there alone, just after he was granted bail, they went after him and made sure the bail was never fulfilled. And they also went to prison to try and kill him. All these things has been documented.
What does this say about what does this say about speaking out in Nigeria today?
They tried to kill him after he won the award, the Whistleblower award.
So that you're saying that attempt, the next attempt you're talking about, came after that award?
Yes, there was. I think that was January
in 2025. Just this year, 2026.
Either very late in December or January this year. I think because I was aware. I think Visayo of FIG did a report on that. So it was recent. It was after he won the award.
So yeah, I wanted you to really speak to, as a journalist and an activist, where really is the hope and in the future of it for people who speak up in the real sense, in the true essence of it?
I mean, an example of a person who's been targeted, persecuted, vilified, harassed, molested, tortured for speaking up, on matters that are of importance. The thing I tell people is, you must understand it's a dangerous job. It is dangerous. And you must also understand that you are working for perhaps a constituency that don't know you or don't care about you. Because except it touches people directly, they don't care about those of you who are fighting against police brutality until the police comes to pick a family member, whether they disappear or they get tortured or, something terrible happened or they get extorted. Like all these police units now across the country use what they call POS. All these terminals to extort money. You can't give them cash. So they have a POS person around. I haven't heard that EFCC does that, and you're going to point it to the person. It could be some small girl in one corner. It's some irregular looking person. And they ask you to pay, and then they take cash and give it to them from there. So that is how these guys are operating. But to come back to your question about this is dangerous, we all know that, but it's not as dangerous as having a society where power is unchecked. So it's the reason I always call on people, and I know it's a difficult thing to ask for, that a united force of plenty of people, even when you're not physically present at a protest, even just lending your voice online makes a lot of difference when it comes to fighting against oppression. There are policemen in this country who were involved in torture. They left the country. They couldn't get asylum because of what people wrote about them on Twitter, because the world has become a global village a long time ago. So many of them don't know. Some of them have retired, they still get haunted, and some of them are still going to get recalled back from retirement. Some people are going to be at the age of 80, 85, or even 90, and they'll come back and be tried for torture when they're in the police force. It's why I tell all these police guys when we meet them that, being in police force, wearing a uniform, and having a position does not give you immunity, not even beyond now. So if you like, you can break somebody's neck, kill somebody's child. One day you will answer for it. That is the truth. And it's going to become a global phenomenon. It's already going global too, where you can commit a crime in Nigeria, and your crime will catch up between Canada or the US or wherever you go. It's some small country. That's where we're headed. So, because I have suffered a lot with the way police treat people. I was shot by a police officer with a riot gun in Abuja. My hand was broken by a CSP. All of them most of the people that have attacked me physically are CSPs. I don't know what is being CSPs and being just mentally deranged. So, but I told them, you are going to have to pay for it at some point. And it's not because I want vengeance. It's because society is going to become more and more intolerant, and my history is going to be part of your history in the future. And it may not be you. It might be your family. It might be your children. And we'll get to a point where police officers' estates will be frozen just to pay for people they tortured.
And yes. You really believe this?
I believe that. Yes. We're going to get there. We're going to have a law that says if you're a police officer, when you're in the police, you kill somebody's son or you broke somebody's hand and you have a house, or you are driving now, or you are no longer in the police, you're going to sell your house to pay for damages to those people.
All right.
We're getting there.
All right.